Not too long ago here on the channel, I made a video about a potential FCC ban of these Baofeng and similar ham radios. By the way, as I'm making this video on October the 10th, 2019, these things are still for sale on Amazon. But I also went ahead and got my general ham radios operator's license so that I could kind of play with these things legally and show them to you on camera legally, because I really don't want to be on camera doing a bunch of illegal stuff. That's not very smart anyways. But in the process of doing that, I did a lot of research and I found at least a couple of other YouTube channels with some really good information. And I've asked one of those guys, Josh from Ham Radio Crash Course, to kind of see if he'd be willing to help us out and give us some basic information about these things, because there's a lot to know, and like everything else on the channel, I thought we just kind of learn together. So in this video, Josh from Ham Radio Crash Course is going to give us like the basics of the emergency use of the Baofeng radio. So that's what's coming up next here on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose, your home for information and gear reviews related to camping, survival, and general preparedness for regular folks. My name's Brian. Thanks for joining me. So as I said, Josh from Ham Radio Crash Course has agreed to kind of help us out. And he shot a quick video about the basic uses of these Baofeng and similar radios for emergency use, because that's what I think the primary reason people buy these things is for emergency use. I'll be honest with you, I've had this one for quite a while, and I thought it'd be great to use, and I got out and started messing with it and I realized I ain't got a clue how to use this thing, right? So I started looking around on the internet trying to figure stuff out, and I came across Josh's channel, and it's just, he just kind of clicks. He's kind of one of us. He's a preparedness-minded guy, because there's a lot of people in the ham world that detest these radios, and they're really old school, and they really want to put you down. Josh is not like that. Josh is just a pretty cool dude, he seemed like. So there's going to be a link right up here in this corner. It's going to be a little white dot with an eye in it. And if you hover your mouse over that, or put your finger up here, or poke it, or with your finger or whatever on your mobile, it'll jump down a link, and you can subscribe to Josh's channel. If you want to learn more about ham radio, he's a great resource. Anyway, I reached out and asked him if he'd be willing to make a video and kind of give us the basics, at least for emergency use of these things, because again, that's the number one reason I think people buy these. So he agreed to do so. And I just want to go over a couple things before we cut to Josh's video, because he talked about a couple things that maybe might need a little clarification up front, because ham radio guys sometimes have their own language. So a couple things, I just want to go over the 5 terms he talks about, just so we're clear on that. First, he talks about HT. This is an HT. It means handheld transmitter. This is an 8-watt Baofeng, but a handheld transmitter. HT, that's what it stands for, if he says that, if you hadn't figured that out. He also talks about simplex channels. Simplex channels are just radio to radio. That means that you're talking directly from one radio to another. And the reason that there's that distinction is because he also talks about repeaters. And what a repeater is it allows you to take, it's like a big antenna somewhere, and you can basically connect with that repeater, and allows your signal to go a lot further, because the antennas are usually like way up high somewhere, because these are kind of line of sight. So if there's hills or buildings in the way, that's going to kind of mess it up. So if there's a local repeater that's up somewhere really high, you can talk to the repeater, and the repeater repeats that signal, and somebody else can receive it. So it really increases your range on these kind of radios. A couple other things, he talks about Chirp, which is a free software. Which is what I use to program these radios. I'll have another video about that one. I think he's got some videos about it. I'm going to be making some videos of my own, just showing you my process as we go forward. So this would be kind of a good primer for you. And then finally, he talks about NOAA radio, and that's NOAA, and that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, something like that. Anyway, it's basically weather channels and emergency like broadcast channels. And one other thing that I guess this is number 6, but he talks about the 2-meter and 70-centimeter band. And basically that's the 2-meter band in the US is 144 to 148 megahertz on the frequencies here, and the 70 centimeter is 420 to 450 megahertz. And he tells you exactly what he's talking about there, but I just want to kind of clear that up. So I think that's about it. So we're going to cut over to Josh right after this word from one of our sponsors. This video is sponsored by Hog Holsters, the concealed carry holster I wear every single day. And I'm proud to call John Abbott of Hog Holsters not only one of my sponsors, but one of my very best friends. John still makes every holster individually by hand with the kind of craftsmanship that is rarely found in this day and time. and the viewers of this channel can save 10% on any purchase at Hog Holsters over $30 by using the coupon code Survival on Purpose, all one word. So I encourage you to check out Hog Holsters. I don't think you'll be disappointed. That's Hog Holsters, helping Americans wear guns.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Josh, KI6NAZ, and I was talking to Survival on Purpose about the use of amateur radios like this Baofeng here and how to be prepared for an actual emergency. It's not just about buying a radio, as you probably figured that out, and putting it away somewhere. You've got to have this loaded with the right frequencies and know how to use it once it's configured. Today we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have a video I posted not too long ago, a live stream format, where I go through all kinds of different use cases for over an hour on how you would use this in an emergency once you have it configured. So consider checking that out. But the first thing to think about is, when you have an HT like this, you've got about 5 watts of power. And with that power, how do you effectively make contacts? How do you talk to somebody who needs help, or how do you yourself get help? And that's through using different frequencies. The good news is that most countries, the United States being one of them, have what they call simplex frequencies that you can load on this radio. And that gives you a walkie-talkie-like call and response frequency that you can use for the things that I mentioned before. I recommend loading the 2 meter and 70 centimeter simplex frequencies on your radio. That is 146.520 megahertz for 2 meters and 446,000 on 70 centimeters. Now those are 2 simple frequencies that you can use across the country and some other countries if you need to call for help or respond to somebody who is in need of help. And what I recommend you do when you have these programmed is leave the radio on and monitor those frequencies. This is a dual channel radio, an A and a B channel. Put the A channel on 2 meter simplex and put the lower channel on 70 centimeter simplex and monitor it so you hear somebody if they need help. This is especially important when you're out in the field. Now for me, I have a mobile radio at home that is connected to a power supply, meaning I can leave it on those frequencies all day long to help in case something comes up. So for an HT, you may not want to leave it on all the time, and I get that. That's where the Wilderness Protocol comes in. The Wilderness Protocol basically advocates turning the radio on at 7 a.m. and listening for 5 minutes. Then turn it off. Turn it back on at 10 a.m., listen for 5 minutes, then turn it off. And do it again at 1 o'clock, and then 4 o'clock, and so on, 7 o'clock. And then that's basically your day. You can keep it going if you need to, but that's basically the Wilderness Protocol. Often people will say, my call sign, your call sign, I'm monitoring for Wilderness Protocol traffic, and then just let it sit and monitor it. That is a great thing to keep in mind. You might want to print yourself out an index card and laminate it and leave it in your kit, particularly where your radio is, in case you yourself can't use the radio, but someone else comes across you and you need help, and they can use your radio to help affect your rescue. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. We got some more to talk about. The next thing I would recommend is load NOAA radio frequencies into your radio. You don't have to load them all. You can load the ones that are applicable to your area. Again, if you're using a Baofeng, there's a great program called Chirp. And there's a cable I recommend. It is the Baofeng programming cable, the FTDI cable dual pin programming cable by BTech. This is available on Amazon. This is almost as expensive as the radio, but I'm not kidding. If you want to program these radios successfully all the time for you and your friends, or have multiple radios, this is the easiest way to do it. Now, using Chirp is really simple. You're just going to import those NOAA frequencies onto your radio once you figure out how to do it. I have a much longer, in-depth programming video. If you'd like to watch that, just search for Baofeng programming and mine will come up. Just look for my ugly face. But basically, you're going to load those NOAA frequencies onto your radio. You're going to mark them so that your radio can't transmit on those frequencies. That would be bad, technically illegal, so don't do that unless it's a super emergency, but even then, it's not a good idea. So with the simplex frequencies, you're going to be able to make calls appropriately to people who need help or to get help yourself. With NOAA, you're going to get a little tactical information of what's going on. And then the last thing you need to load is your local repeaters. This is going to be the hardest part of this whole thing because it's going to take a little bit of your time to do it appropriately. Again, go into Chirp. That's one of the things I would recommend to handle this in the best way, and you're going to query your local area for repeaters that are in your area. You're going to load both 2 meter and 70 centimeter repeaters into your radio. Now at that point, The important thing to do is use that radio, scan those memory channels often. Keep a list. Chirp allows you to kind of print a comma-separated, or basically an Excel sheet, if you will, of the frequencies you have loaded, and listen and scan and listen and scan. And start checking boxes on the repeaters that are in use and the repeaters that aren't in use. If you have your amateur radio call sign, you can go ahead and give a call out. Mention that you need a radio check. Maybe somebody will come back to you. If they do, make sure you keep that one in your radio. However, if you have a radio that 75% of those repeaters are not in use, you should consider dumping them from your radio and then just keeping the valid ones on that are in use. This is something you should do often. You should bring your radio out, make sure it's charged, just like you check your firearms, keep them oiled, go to the range. Same kind of thing. It's a little bit of practice, something to keep the rust off that mental tool that you got right here so that you know how to use the radio effectively in an emergency. So drag it out, scan often, make sure you've got a good list of repeaters. In my area in Southern California, I have more repeaters available to me than there are memory channels on this radio, which means I need to keep my list up to date of just the active repeaters. I need to cull the ones out that aren't usable and add the ones in that are good. Okay, so those are basically my 3 steps. Get your simplex frequencies loaded and understand the wilderness protocol. 2, load the NOAA channels. You want to mark them so you can transmit, again, but that's going to give you some good tactical information for your local area. And 3, find good local repeaters. The truth is that most situations that involve VHF, UHF radios like this, and people out in the field, is that they're going to depend on repeaters to find you when your cell phone isn't working, or for you to find someone that's out in the wilderness that needs help. So make sure you got good repeaters and be ready to answer the call if it comes in. Thank you, Survival on Purpose, for letting me make this video and reach out to you guys. Again, I am Josh, KI6NAZ. I run the ham radio crash course here on YouTube. I'd love it if you checked us out. All right? Thanks a lot. I'll see you.
Okay, well, hopefully that was helpful. I really encourage you, if you want to learn more about ham radios, not just their emergency use, but just all sorts of facets. Josh's channel, Ham Radio Crash Course, is a very, very good channel. He explains stuff very clearly, and he's just a real world kind of guy. So I really encourage you to go check it out. There'll be a link again right up here, and there'll also be one in the description. Go subscribe to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Once again, thanks so much to Josh for contributing this to the channel and for helping us out with a little bit of knowledge. And as always, thank you for watching Survival on Purpose. I put out a brand new video every Friday and Saturday, and sometimes random videos throughout the week. If you're not subscribed, you can click right down there in the corner. Be sure and click that little notification bell that pops up, and maybe YouTube will notify you when I put out a new video. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single video, I invite you to subscribe to my weekly email newsletter, where every Sunday I'll send you an email with all the previous week's videos, plus any cool offers or deals I think you might be interested in. You can just go to survivalonpurpose.com/subscribe, or you can click right down there, click that little square with a knife in it, and it'll take you to the page where you can sign up. I really appreciate all your support. Once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident, so be prepared. I'll see you next time.